Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Thanks for being here. It's a pleasure to start the weekend with you. Um, I'm going live simultaneously, hopefully successfully, on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram. So, thank the Lord for these amazing technological platforms that allow us to connect like this. So, happy Saturday. It's great to have you here. If this is your first time catching me live, thanks a bunch. My name is Renee. By trade, I'm an editor and I'm a writer. I'm also an educator and coach. Love helping people learn to craft their words, create great content. So, been a super busy week. I don't know about you, but I'm glad that it's Saturday and it is the first weekend of February. Now, here in Dallas, we do have good weather. So, it's 46 degrees, cloudy and overcast, no rain, definitely not below zero. So, good to see you all in here. If you're here live watching me, make sure to pop in the comments, say hello, so I can tell you hello personally. So, what a week this has been. As you guys know, I've been out of town, broadcast live last weekend, and um, was so excited because I wanted to show you the beautiful sunrise and what was going on, but my camera wouldn't work. And I figured out what the problem was. It was a Google Chrome update that was not compatible with my camera. And it wouldn't let me use the software that I use to live stream. So that's all it was, guys. That's all it was. And so I was able to fix it. I had to roll back to the previous version of Chrome, turn off auto updates so that it wouldn't do it again, refresh all the software in my platform here so that I could go live. Um, Hello from Soggy London. Oh, Charlie. I miss Soggy London. I miss London at all. And I can't wait for us to be able to travel abroad again, guys. So, anyway. So over here in the States, Charlie, to you and Claire, the kids and the puppies, one, two. Um, Hello, and we love you, and we can't wait to see you again. So, guys, over here in the States, it is Super Bowl weekend. So, good morning to everyone except Tom Brady. And this is the closest thing I have to a football mug. Of course, it's my Cowboys. Go Cowboys! Please go Cowboys! Can we have go Cowboys again? But I am definitely rooting for the Kansas City Chiefs. I want Mahomes and the team to win. I love their coach. Um, just could we please have a Super Bowl without Tom Brady? Last year was so wonderful. That's all I ask. Oscar and BAFTA, yes, yes, sending love. So yes, over here in it is the Super Bowl, and so we have some interesting stuff here. I have a new book for you, but I think I left it down. No, I didn't leave it downstairs, did I? No, it's right here. So I've got a fun book that I'll be sharing with you guys later in the broadcast as we continue to talk about football. But another thing we had to deal with, especially yesterday, guys, we've lost so many in a generation of acting greats, iconic figures, really. Started in January, right? 2021 started off with a bang, and we lost several stars, including Christopher Plummer yesterday. Oof, that one hurt. And I think that hurt in many hearts because of who he was, the roles that he played. What are your favorite Christopher Plummer roles? Good morning. Oh, the comments are rolling in. Okay, so here we go. Hi, Sherry. How are you doing? Fargo, North Dakota. How is it up there? Is it cold? Hello, my friend. Good morning. Good morning, Carol. You've had your first cup of coffee. Good. I'm glad I'm enjoying my first cup of coffee with you. And Charlie, I know it's what, tea time in London? Shortly after lunchtime or tea time. Um, good morning, Kelly. How are you? Good to see you, my dear. Good to see you. So yeah, guys, we lost a lot of greats. I mean, going back to, I just jotted some down and had to look up their dates. But we lost Hank Aaron on January 22nd, Larry King on January 23rd, Cloris Leachman on January 27th, Cicely Tyson on January 28th. And you know, guys, her book dropped on the 26th. So that created kind of a snafu for the publisher, Tyler Perry, who has had Cicely in his movies, has a very close relationship with her, had a live stream event planned with tickets. I had purchased one and I was so excited to see this interview. Would be Tyler Perry interviewing Cicely Tyson live. And she passed away. She passed away. She was scheduled to be interviewed February the 1st. Right now, it's hard to find her books. If you did get a copy when the books first rolled out, consider yourself lucky because due to this situation, all the stores have no books. They have put a hold on it right now. I think they're revamping how they're going to roll out Cicely's book, but imagine how that affected. That is even going to make even more book sales once her book drops. But yes, Cicely Tyson on January 28th. Then February 1st, we lost Dustin Diamond. If you were ever a Saved by the Bell fan, you know, he played Screech. And in this new recast of the show, it was kind of obvious that he wasn't in the show. And they sort of wrote him in like an abstract sort of role that he was on Mars. Um, and he passed away. And what was sad was when I caught wind of these stories in the news. Good morning, Kathy. How are you doing? Good to see you, sweetie. Thanks for being here. When I caught wind of Dustin's illness, you know, he goes into a hospital, he gets himself checked out, he finds out he has stage 4 lung cancer and passed away by February 1st. So that was really, really heartbreaking. I don't know about you, but I tend to look up information when these people pass because, especially when they're celebrities or figures in society that we know, especially that we've come to know in our lifetime, you look them up and you just, wow, wow. So these are the pillars, though. Someone like Christopher Plummer is a pillar in the generation of great actors in our lifetime. It's always sad to see the great ones go. But more importantly, I think, is to appreciate what they leave behind and maybe think about what we're leaving behind, right? In our life stories. So, anyway, those are some tough farewells we had to say. And I know yesterday I was just heartstricken. I think I'm going to watch The Sound of Music again. I want to see Beginners. I haven't seen that movie. But I've loved all of the roles he's been in because he can play such a range of characters. But for me, Sound of Music will always be a favorite memory because as a child, I saw that movie in the movie theaters with my mom. You know, you see it on a big screen. I would love for movie theaters to maybe show that again on a big screen because just that experience of watching that movie and that size of a screen during a time when the world was facing difficult times. And so the kind of character that, you know, Georg von Trapp was and Maria and those children and what they went through. So if you ever get a chance, you should really read the story of the Trapp family singers, written by Maria and telling the story of what their life was like. Actually, when what happened is they were discovered, they had to sing, the Nazis were still in power. He financially lost everything because he had participated in an investment, you know, abroad that was affected by the stock market crash and the Great Depression. And so they were singing and performing and were under that time and finally were able to flee and came to the United States. So anyway, Christopher Plummer, that was a hard one. That was a hard one. So, hello, Stephanie. Good morning. Good to see you out on YouTube. Stephanie, thank you for supporting me on YouTube. I love folks who are watching here live on Instagram and Facebook and YouTube. I appreciate all of you being here. So thanks so much. So Stephanie, good. It was rough for our elderly greats. You have a wind chill of -38, Sherry. Can we just all lift up my friend Sherry right now who lives in Fargo, North Dakota? Cover her, protect her, insulate her, warm her. Whew, 38 below. I don't know how you do it. You didn't know Dustin Diamond died. You were just watching Saved by the Bell today. Yes, he did on the 1st. Stephanie, he passed on the 1st. You know, he had gone in and found out he had cancer. Your husband and you rewatched the movie near the beginning of the pandemic, and it gave you such hope and peace. So iconic. Yes, hope and peace, things that we really need in these times, right? With all that we've got going on. Hello, Kathy. Love you, my friend. So yeah, that was tough. That was tough. And we are also celebrating and honoring our African American brothers and sisters as we celebrate African American History Month, right? And so I have a couple of things that I want to share with you, some fun things that I hope will get your brain going and help you grow in your knowledge of just some things you may not know, okay? So, one last thing before I jump into that. Sorry, I just saw it on my notes and I was like, totally forgot about this. Actually, I'll do it at the end. So you know that I love to teach you Hawaiian words as part of my culture and help you learn a little bit about Hawaiian language. Also, as you're talking in English as well. So I'm going to give you your Hawaiian word of the week. Ready? Dun, 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 dun. So your Hawaiian word of the week, and unfortunately on Instagram, you can't see it on the screen, but I will share it with you. I will put it in a post probably. But the Hawaiian, I'm going to teach you a Hawaiian word, okay? And this is the word popolo. Now, popolo in Hawaiian means blackberry, like the fruit, right? And Hawaiians did not have a word for people of a different color. They knew of themselves, and as people came to the islands and emigrated from other lands, other continents, the Africans in Hawaii became known as popolo. And the reason why they were called that is because the Hawaiians identified them by their skin color as being darker. And so the only word that they had really that would reflect how they saw these people coming from another land was popolo. They are the people with skin as blackberries, right? So the Africans in Hawaii are a minority of about 4% of the island population, and about 2% of those 4 are of African descent. So the first Africans visited Hawaii and came at the end of the 18th century, shortly after Captain Cook came and landed on the islands. So the first Africans to arrive in Hawaii were deckhands on merchant and whaling ships, and they came from a place called Cape Verde, okay? And I'm going to share that with you and show you where in the live stream. So for those who are watching on Instagram, Cape Verde is an island cluster off the western coast of Africa, okay? And so some of these people immigrated from there, and at the time, the people there were controlled by the country of Portugal. So these people were of Portuguese registry, and so they were identified as such and not African, okay? So these early Africans ended their maritime careers and ended up settling in Hawaii. A number of them were successful musicians, businessmen, and respected government officials. One American born African was Anthony D. Allen, who was an ex slave. He came to Hawaii in 1810 as a whaler, and he became a steward of King Kamehameha I, and within a decade came to own 12 houses, a farm, running a boarding house, a bowling alley, and a hospital on the island. The first two leaders of the Royal Hawaiian Band under King Kamehameha III, Oliver and George Washington Hyatt, were also African Americans. And a former slave who accompanied the American Protestant missionaries who came to the island, Betsy Stockton, she started the first mission school in Lahaina and opened it to the common people. So, prior to their own independence in 1775, many Cape Verdeans emigrated from the islands to Hawaii because Cape Verde had several famines and droughts, and so the people left, but of course came to another island chain, probably that was similar to theirs. So they came. It was the Portuguese province of, it was, the islands were ruled and controlled by Portugal. So when these people came, they used their Portuguese passports and were registered as Portuguese rather than African, okay? So when the Emancipation Proclamation happened in 1863, the Hawaiian government became interested in the prospect of contracting freed slaves for labor in Hawaii to work on the sugar plantations. So, the thought of 4 million slaves suddenly thrust onto the open market prompted Hawaiian Foreign Minister Robert Crichton Wiley to write a prominent friend in Boston. We could perhaps admit with advantage to ourselves, say, 20,000 freed Negroes, pay them wages, and give them the treatment of free men. Although nothing came out of it due to the inability of Lincoln to be able to truly enforce the law in the South, and also the logistics of moving that many slaves to the Hawaiian Islands, only about 300 of them came. So by 1910, there were still only 695 Africans in Hawaii, most of whom 537 of them were multiracial. And then following the overthrow of the Hawaiian monarchy by the sugar plantation owners and their business consortium, there was kind of an unofficial sort of race class system put into place. So the whites were at the top, the browns were in the middle, and then you had the yellows. These were the Asian people, the Chinese, the Japanese people who were on the islands also working on these plantations. So, Black people, African people, were included with the browns. So they were made kind of on the same level as the local Hawaiian people and were able to work. They were able to rise up in middle class. They were able to go to school. And then since annexation, the immigration barriers were lifted and attempts were made to bring laborers of African descent from Tennessee, Mississippi, and Alabama to work on the plantation. So only 300 made the journey. Many did not stay on the plantations after their contracts expired, finding Hawaii's plantation life deplorable and better off returning to plantations of the South. So if you imagine if they thought that the plantations of the South were better, imagine what the working conditions were under the plantation owners on the Hawaiian Islands. And because they were a territory, they were not part of the United States yet, it became difficult. So, despite the horrid conditions at the bottom of society, most Africans were acquainted with the Western world, either in the United States or colonial Africa, as Hawaii was Americanized under the territorial period. Africans could identify opportunities that went unnoticed by other groups. Many skilled African Americans immigrated to escape racism on the mainland and not be denied work at their trade or profession. Although hostilities existed with whites, whites were a minority and found more acceptance and less but existing discrimination between the coloreds than the divide between the white and colored. So, despite all of these challenges, the people who were in the Hawaiian Islands, the Africans that found themselves in the Hawaiian Islands. Oh, I'm glad. Thank you. Thanks, Stephanie. Yes, absolutely. So, as these people established themselves, were able to rise up into middle class, were able to get an education, some of them rose to be historic figures. So, I'm going to introduce one to you. And Instagram again, I'm sorry that you cannot see this because I don't have a way to share my screen, but you'll have to look up the name of a woman called Alicia Ball. Okay, Alicia Ball. And let me tell you a little bit about her. So, Alicia Ball earned her master's degree at the University of Hawaii and taught there as a chemistry professor. She discovered what is called the Ball method, which is a symptomatic treatment for leprosy that bears her name to this day. So, for those who were suffering from leprosy, the island of Molokai was made the leper colony. And so people in the Hawaiians, it sounds kind of cruel, but in that culture, whenever there was someone deformed or diseased or sick, they gave their life back to the ocean, to the gods. It helped sustain their culture and keep them alive. But when the missionaries came and told them that this was not a way of life, and to that they could just kill off people who were sick or injured, so this doctor, this woman, came up with a method of treating the symptoms of leprosy and was able to help get that disease under control on that island. So, Alicia Ball, she was the first African American and the first woman to achieve a degree from the University of Hawaii, and also creating a method by which she was able to help save so many people from a horrid disease. So it's amazing to find out all of these things, all of these people who do incredible things that we never really think about. So as you are celebrating and learning more about Black History Month, and I'll be sharing these links on my page and on Instagram, I'll be sharing posts about this as well to help you learn more about these iconic people who've made a difference despite challenging obstacles and hurdles that they had to overcome in order to do what they did. So it's really, to me, I was so encouraged. So on this day in Black history, the Mayflower of Liberia sailed from the New York City harbor on February 6, 1820, with 86 Blacks. They went over to the British colony of Sierra Leone and helped create the country of Liberia. On February 6, 1993, Arthur Ashe passes away. He was the first African American tennis player to win at Wimbledon. How about that? So those are some interesting facts to help you learn a little bit more about Black History Month, right? So the fruit, popolo, means blackberry, but also is the word Hawaiians use for Black people. Michael and I were having a conversation last night about, is this a slur? Is it really a slur? I know that growing up, my mother always taught me that, they were popolo people. So I could visually identify them as of a different color skin than myself. So I was taught, oh, she's popolo, or she's half popolo, half haole, mixed race. But again, that class system was put into place when the monarchy was overthrown and a new type of leadership took over the islands before it was annexed to the United States. So, yes, Black history is our history. It's our global history. We are all connected by this. And so it's so important. Absolutely, Stephanie. So that's why I love sharing these kinds of things and helping you learn about it. So here's the thing I was going to tell you earlier, but I'll tell you about it today. It is a book recommendation that I want to make. So I will be this month in my broadcasts sharing and recommending books by great authors. I'm going to have one weekend where we do children's literature. We're also going to look at young adult literature and what's going on in fiction and nonfiction. And I'm going to pick some selections. We'll talk about them. Hopefully, you'll be able to check them out. If you have great book recommendations for me by great African American authors, let me know. I would love to find out. So, here's a book that I wanted to share with you. I picked this up yesterday at the bookstore as I was perusing and looking for some things to share. And first of all, guys, if you do have a local bookstore, bookstores are great places to go during the pandemic if they are open because you're not going to be in big crowds of people. Most people like to walk through the bookstore by themselves, even if you go with someone, say your spouse or your significant other or a friend. Even though you go to the bookstore together, you guys know how we just sort of trail off. I'll meet you. I'll be over here. I'll be over in fiction. I'll be over in cookbooks, right? So we go to those sections that we like. So anyway, I was perusing the store. Here we have a beautiful Barnes and Noble that has escalators that go up to the second floor. It has a reading area, all these lovely, just rows and rows of books. So you can go in the bookstore, you can get a coffee, you can wander through the aisles of books and look. So I picked up this book yesterday. Oops, turned the right way. I picked up this book yesterday, okay? It's entitled, You Ought to Do a Story About Me. It's written by Ted Jackson, who is a Pulitzer Prize author. And I thought, gosh, that's an interesting cover. See, so if you're thinking about writing a book or coming up with a book, and I'll be talking about this in subsequent broadcasts, the importance of your cover. So I was drawn to this picture. So if y'all can see it here on the screen on Facebook, right? You ought to do a story about me. And I thought, oh, that looks really interesting. It's just some guy on a bench. And then when I looked and saw the stuff around him on the ground, I realized, oh, he's homeless. You ought to do a story about me. So both the cover and the title piqued my interest. In the middle of all of these books around me on this shelf, and also the way this book was placed on a table of books that they were featuring, this cover stood out to me, right? And so did the title, You Ought to Do a Story About Me. In 1990, while covering a story about homelessness for the New Orleans Times-Picayune, Ted Jackson encountered a drug addict sleeping under a bridge. After taking a photo, Jackson woke the man. Pointing to the daily newspaper by his side, the homeless stranger looked the photojournalist in the eye and said, You ought to do a story about me. When Jackson asked why, he was stunned by the answer. Because I've played in 3 Super Bowls. You guys, imagine. That chance meeting was the start of Jackson's 30-year relationship with Jackie Wallace, a former NFL star who rose to the pinnacle of fame and fortune only to crash and lose it all. Jackson learns of how Jackie Wallace spiraled into the vortex of darkness that left him addicted and destitute on the streets of New Orleans. In prose, both spare and poetic, Jackson chronicles Jackie's life from his teenage years in New Orleans through college and the NFL to the end of his pro career and the untimely death of his mother, events that influenced Jackie's cycle of addiction and tested his faith in humanity. Throughout, Jackson pays tribute to the enduring friendship he shares with this man as he comes to know and also see as an inspiration. But Jackson is not naive. He speaks frankly about the vulnerability of such a relationship. Can a man like Jackie recover, or is he destined to roam the streets until his end? Tragic and triumphant, inspiring and unexpected, You Ought to Do a Story About Me offers a rare glimpse into the precarious world of homelessness and the lingering impact of systemic racism and poverty on the lives of New Orleans citizens. Jackson's account is pure, singular, and ambitious, a lyrical tale about loss, redemption, and hope in their multifarious forms. Well, needless to say, I grabbed a coffee, I went up the escalator, I sat down in that reading area, and I started reading this book. And I was sucked in. The book is also, it's really great, but there are several areas and sections where, as you are reading, so let me get to them. There are pictures. You can see where he lived, the kind of neighborhood, and where most of these areas were segregated. Um, Lots of pictures as you are reading through the story of life. And then also his football career, you know, when they reunited with him. So, guys, I was intrigued. I was pulled in, and that's what a great book will do, right? A great book with an eye-catching cover, a title that really grabs, right? And a story that spans 30 years of the relationship of this gentleman. So, yeah. So Ted Jackson, he's a Pulitzer Prize winning photojournalist who has spent nearly 34 years with the New Orleans Times-Picayune. Um, Throughout his years, he has covered the physical destruction and emotional trauma of earthquakes and hurricanes, most notably Hurricane Katrina. For their coverage, the Times-Picayune staff won a Pulitzer Prize for public service and another for breaking news reporting. His work has appeared in newspapers, magazines, and books around the world, including the New York Times, the Washington Post, Newsweek, Time, National Geographic. He has appeared in interviews on CBS This Morning, ABC, CNN, Fox News, NBC, and NPR. He lives with his wife Nancy in Covington, Louisiana. This is a great book. So, like I said, great book covers with great titles and in compelling stories. These are the kind of stories that are out there. So I hope you will get a copy of this if you're into football and you want to learn about Jackie Wallace and what happened to this man. I highly suggest you pick up a copy of this book, right? So guys, that's my Saturday morning. Hope you are doing well where you are. Thank you for popping in and saying hi. Hey guys, to all the folks that joined on Instagram. Love having you here. This is a fun thing that I'm going to try to hopefully do if all the software and all the technical things work correctly. It sounds like a great book to you and it's familiar to you. You may have seen that on CBS Sunday Morning. Thank you for the spotlight on the homeless. Yes, absolutely. Because as this pandemic continues to affect our nation and people around the globe, we're going to be seeing more and more people who are severely impacted by what has happened. I am blessed. If you're here on this broadcast with me and you are sitting in your home and you are enjoying a cup of coffee while you're scrolling through Facebook and Instagram and YouTube and you're watching me ramble on and talk about people like this, you ought to do a story about me. How many stories are going on around you that maybe you can connect with and be a part of and lift up, right? So, really excited to get more into this book. Like I said, I'll be sharing more authors. We're going to be looking at some great female authors. We're going to look at young adult literature. We're going to look at children's literature. We are going to celebrate all of the great work that is coming out with all of these amazing people. Thank you. My recommendation felt reading Rainbow-like, but you don't have to take my word for it. Well, thank you, Kelly. Well, it's true. Again, guys, As an editor, I try to, when I work with my clients, I try to encourage them. If I'm grabbed by a book title and a book cover and a compelling story, I'm constantly out there looking at what's going on in the market, how bookstores are putting them on the shelves, what people are drawn to. Those kinds of things are helpful when you're thinking about writing your own story. These are all elements that you would have to put together in a book proposal if you were pitching an agent, right? So that's why it's so important to be able to know these things. And if you want to self-publish, these things are important as well, because how your book looks on a table or a shelf next to this one and many others like it, right? So those are the important things that we need to think of if you're going to tell your story. So if you need help, that's what I love to do, right? I edit stories. I help writers craft their own words, give them tips, help give them some fine tuning, put together book proposals, query letters, and hopefully help them put their best stories forward. So if you've got a story to tell, or you're thinking about publishing something, or you've already self-published, way to go. Keep at it. There's more stories in you. And don't just think they always have to be a fiction story. And it might be a cookbook, might be some poetry, might be a children's picture book if you are an illustrator or an artist, right? There are several ways to publish and create your work. So let me encourage you to do so. All right. Well, guys, listen. Okay, that's my story. I'm sticking to it. And I'm hoping that you have a great Super Bowl weekend, because we all know that today's going to be a great day without Tom Brady, right? Thanks so much for joining. Thanks to all of you who participated live in the comments. Love when you are interacting here. And it just makes more for feeling like we're a community, right? And using these platforms to really connect. So if I can help you, please drop me a message. You can send me a message here on Instagram. You can contact me on my website at reneeharden.com/contact. Yep, that's me. Drop me a note there. Let me know how I can help you. If you need some help with editing, with writing, if you've got an idea for a book, if you're thinking about publishing a book, if you're working on a manuscript right now and you just want to talk to someone to give you some advice on directions to go or what you could do with your work. All right. So thanks a bunch for that. Let me know how I can help. Yeah. And we will be talking more on these upcoming Saturdays about some great African-American writers, screen stars. We've got some great movies coming up. Oh, and last but not least, I want to give a huge shout out to one of our dear friends who helped produce The Trial of the Chicago 7. It was nominated for 5 Golden Globes. So I am giving a huge shout out to our friend, my husband's best friend and former college roommate at Stanford, Todd Harris. We love you. We are so excited. I'm excited. If you haven't seen The Trial of Chicago 7, guys, watch it. It's on Netflix. It's a great movie. It's a great story. And that's all I have to say about that. All right. So that's my movie recommendation for this weekend. If you've got some recommendations you want to share with me, please let me know. I love hearing it. It doesn't have to all come from me, but these are some things that I'm sharing with you to help make your brain grow in its knowledge, put a smile on your face, and hopefully start your weekend off well. All right. Thanks, guys. Happy Saturday. Hope I'll see you back here next weekend. Well, we'll do lots more of this. We will catch up on things. I'll share some more great book things. We'll talk about life, and we'll have to do it over coffee, okay? Oh, Stephanie, I love spending time with you too. Thank you, my dear. It's always a pleasure. To the folks on Instagram, thanks so much. It's been great to have you here. Hope you have a fantastic weekend. And to the folks on Facebook and YouTube, whether you're watching via replay or you got to catch me live. Love y'all. Have a great weekend. I'll see you back.